The night was quiet, but not normal quiet. It was the kind of silence that made even the crickets stop. The small town at the edge of the forest slept peacefully, not knowing that the sky above was about to change everything. He was walking home. Late that night, headphones in his ears, lost in music. His name was Daniel, a young man who often stayed up too late, but on this night, the music was forgotten when the ground shook under his feet. He looked up, and his eyes widened. A streak of burning light cut across the stars. It wasn't a shooting star. It was larger, brighter, and moving too low. The object roared through the clouds like a fireball, tearing the sky apart. Daniel froze as the glowing craft dipped lower and lower until it vanished into the forest. With a deafening crash, the shockwave knocked leaves from the trees and made dogs bark across the neighborhood. Daniel stood still, heart racing. His hands shaking, he whispered to himself, "What was that?" For a moment, he thought about running home, pretending he saw nothing, but something inside him told him to move. He needed to know what fell from the sky. With hesitant steps, Daniel walked toward the forest. The streets were empty, the houses dark. Everyone else was asleep, unaware of the event that would soon change his life. The closer he got to the trees, the stronger the smell of smoke became. It was sharp, like burning metal in ozone. A strange light flickered between the branches. Ahead, Daniel's breath came faster, his chest heavy with fear and curiosity. Finally, he reached the clearing. The sight before him stole the air from his lungs. There, half buried in the dirt, was something not of this world. It looked like a small craft, broken and sparking, glowing faintly with colors he couldn't even name. Pieces of strange metal were scattered across the ground, pulsing like living things. The crash site looked alive, dangerous, and beautiful at the same time. Daniel swallowed hard, his body frozen. Every instinct screamed for him to turn back, but then he heard it. A sound faint and soft, not the crackle of fire, not the hiss of smoke. It was a cry, like someone was hurt, someone was calling for help. Daniel's heart thumped louder. He stepped carefully, his shoes crunching on broken dirt and strange glowing fragments. The sound came from behind a large piece of the broken craft. He bent down, squinting, his hands shaking as he pushed aside a glowing shard. And then he saw her, a figure lying on the ground, weak and trembling. At first, he thought it was a girl from town, maybe a survivor of some accident. But when she opened her eyes, Daniel's whole body froze. Her eyes glowed faint blue, like tiny stars trapped inside. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light of the wreckage, smooth and pale, yet almost metallic. She was no ordinary girl. She was not human. Daniel staggered back, gasping for breath. But her hand lifted weakly, reaching toward him. Her lips moved, trying to form words. He leaned closer, even though every part of him screamed to run. Her voice was soft, broken. "Help me." The words struck him like lightning. She spoke English. She understood. For a long second, Daniel just stared at her. This couldn't be real. He was just a normal guy. This was just a normal night. But now lying before him was proof of life. Beyond Earth, the alien girl struggled to sit up, her body trembling. She looked afraid, not dangerous, not violent, just afraid. Smoke rose around them, the wreck behind her glowing hotter. Daniel could hear distant sirens in the town. Someone must have heard the crash. If others found her, what would they do? Would they help her or lock her away? His chest tightened. A war starting in his mind. Run or help? Ignore her or trust her? Her eyes locked onto his, glowing with desperate light. For the first time, Daniel saw something strange in them, something almost human. Fear, pain, and hope. She whispered again, weaker this time. "Please." Daniel knelt down, his voice trembling. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but I won't leave you here." In that moment, he made his choice, a choice that would change both of their lives. The forest burned quietly around them, the wreck humming with strange energy. But Daniel focused only on her. The alien girl whose presence filled him with terror and wonder. He reached out his hand. She hesitated, then slowly placed her trembling fingers into his. And as the night air grew heavy with smoke and the sound of approaching sirens, Daniel knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same again. Daniel's hand shook as he helped the strange girl to her feet. Her body was light, almost weightless, as if she was made of something softer than bone. Her skin felt cold, like stone that had been kissed by moonlight. And yet, there was a pulse, a faint rhythm that told him she was alive. Her breathing was shallow, her chest rising slowly as though each breath was a battle. When she leaned against him, Daniel could feel how fragile she was. This alien girl, who had fallen from the stars, was not the monster his mind had feared. She was weak, broken, and desperate. "Who are you?" Daniel whispered, almost too afraid to say it. Her eyes flickered toward him, glowing faintly even in the shadows. For a moment she did not answer, then a single word left her lips. "Lyra." Daniel blinked, his heart racing. Her voice was strange, soft, musical, but heavy with pain. "Lyra," he repeated. "Is that your name?" She nodded slowly, before wincing in pain, her hand gripping his arm for support. Behind them, the wreck of her ship let out a loud crack, sending sparks into the air. Daniel's head whipped around, fear rising, the sound of distant sirens was getting closer. Someone was coming. He looked back at her, panic in his voice. "We can't stay here. They'll find us." Lyra's glowing eyes widened, as if she understood the danger. Her lips moved again, forcing out broken words. "No soldiers." "Danger." Her voice trembled, but her warning was clear. Whoever was coming wasn't here to help. Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we have to move. Come on." Step by step he guided her away from the wreck, deeper into the forest. Branches clawed at his clothes, roots caught his shoes, but he didn't stop. The only thing that mattered was getting her away from the crash. At one point, Lyra stumbled, falling to her knees. Daniel crouched beside her, fear in his chest. Her skin glowed faintly brighter, then dimmed. She looked like a dying flame struggling to stay alive. "Don't leave," she whispered weakly. Daniel clenched his fists. "I won't, I promise." They pushed forward until the flashing light of the wreck faded behind them. The forest grew darker, quieter, except for their ragged breathing. Daniel led her toward an old wooden cabin at the edge of the trees, his grandfather's place. Unused for years, it wasn't much, but it was hidden, safe, at least for now, inside. Daniel lowered her gently onto an old couch. Dust filled the air, but she didn't seem to care. Her glowing eyes scanned the room, curious, confused. She looked like a child lost in a world she didn't belong to. Daniel knelt beside her, whispering, "You're safe here. No one will find you." For a long time she was silent. Then she touched her chest with trembling fingers. "Lyra," she said again, as if reminding him. Daniel nodded. "I'm Daniel," he said softly, pointing to himself. Her lips moved slowly as she repeated it. "Da. Neil." The way she said his name made his heart skip. Hours seemed to pass in silence, broken only by her shallow breaths. Daniel gave her water, and she drank carefully, as if unfamiliar with the act. When he asked simple questions, she struggled, but her eyes showed effort. "Where are you from?" he asked once. Her gaze drifted toward the stars through the cabin window. "Far, far," she whispered, her voice fading. Her body trembled, exhaustion pulling her back into sleep. Daniel sat beside her, his thoughts racing. He should call someone, scientists, the government, anyone. But deep inside, he knew what would happen. They wouldn't treat her like a person. They would treat her like a weapon, a secret, a prisoner. And somehow he couldn't let that happen. Outside, a twig snapped. Daniel's head snapped toward the window. The forest was dark, silent, too silent. Then, a faint red light flickered through the trees, moving slowly. Not a flashlight, not normal. It pulsed, scanning, searching. Daniel's blood turned cold. Lyra had been right. Someone was coming. Not helpers, not rescuers, hunters. He rushed back to her side, shaking her gently. Her glowing eyes opened weakly, fear flashing inside them. "They found me," she whispered. Daniel's heart pounded as he looked toward the door. Whoever was outside was close, too close. The night had brought him a secret, a miracle, a living mystery. But it also brought danger he could never have imagined, and in that moment, Daniel understood one thing. Helping her meant stepping into a war he knew nothing about. But looking at her so fragile, so lost, he also knew there was no turning back. Not now, not ever. The red light outside grew brighter, closer. The hunters were here, and the real story was only just beginning. Daniel held his breath, watching the red light flicker through the trees outside the cabin. His hands tightened into fists, every instinct telling him to run. But then he looked at her, Lyra, sitting weakly on the couch, her glowing eyes full of fear. He couldn't abandon her, not now. "Stay quiet," he whispered, his voice trembling. Lyra nodded faintly, pressing her hand against her chest. Her glow dimmed as if she was trying to hide herself. Daniel moved to the window, peering out into the dark. Shapes moved between the trees, shadows with strange weapons that hummed like electricity. They weren't police. They weren't rescue workers. These were soldiers, but not human soldiers. Daniel's heart pounded, his mind racing. They were searching for her, and if they found her here, it was over. He turned back to her, whispering sharply, "We can't stay, they'll find us." Lyra's voice was weak, but she managed one word: "Run." It took everything in him. But Daniel helped her to her feet again. She leaned on him heavily, her legs trembling like a child learning to walk. The back door of the cabin creaked open as they slipped into the night. The cold air stung Daniel's skin as he led her deeper into the forest. Away from the pulsing red lights, they moved slowly, every sound around them sharper than ever, the rustle of leaves, the snap of twigs, their own ragged breaths. More lights appeared in the distance, voices calling out in a language Daniel didn't understand, but Lyra did. Her body tensed, her glowing eyes wide. "They hunt me," she whispered. Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. "Then I'll keep you safe." For hours they walked through the thick woods, until the lights and voices finally faded. Daniel guided her to a stream, where she collapsed. On the bank, exhausted, the silver moonlight reflected off the water, and for the first time since the crash, silence returned. Daniel crouched beside her, brushing sweat-soaked strands of pale hair from her face. "You're safe now," he murmured, though his own heart still thundered. Lyra's chest rose and fell, slowly evening out. When her glowing eyes finally met his again, something changed. There was no fear this time, no panic. There was curiosity. She tilted her head, watching him as if she were studying a strange animal. Her lips moved slowly, carefully. "Why?" "Help? Me?" Daniel froze at the question. Why was he helping her? He could have run, pretended none of this ever happened. But as he looked at her, fragile, trembling, yet alive, he knew the answer. "Because you needed me," he said softly. "And because you don't deserve to be hunted." For a moment, her glowing eyes softened. She lifted a trembling hand and pressed it gently against his chest, right over his heart. Her touch was cold, but it sent a strange warmth through him. Her lips formed the word slowly, carefully. "Human." "Kind." The word hit him harder than he expected. She had seen humans, she had studied them, maybe even feared them, but here now, she had found kindness, and somehow, Daniel knew that mattered to her more than anything. As the hours passed, she began to show him small pieces of herself. She touched the stream, and the water rippled in strange patterns, glowing faintly as if it recognized her. She closed her eyes and hummed softly, and tiny sparks of light floated above her palm before fading away. Her strength was returning. Little by little, Daniel watched in awe, half afraid, half amazed. "You're incredible," he whispered without thinking. Lyra tilted her head again, repeating softly, "Incredible." The way she said the word, like it was something new and precious, made him smile, but the peace didn't last. As the first light of dawn broke over the trees, a low hum filled the sky. Daniel and Lyra both looked up. A massive shadow passed overhead, too smooth, too silent to be a plane. Lyra's eyes widened in terror, her voice breaking. "They come." Daniel's chest tightened. Whoever was hunting her last night hadn't given up. Now they had machines, ships, whatever they were. They were searching the skies. He clenched his fists, heart racing. This wasn't just about hiding her anymore. It was about surviving. He turned to her, his voice firm despite the fear inside him. "Then we keep moving, together." Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining brighter in the rising sun. For the first time, she didn't look afraid. For the first time, she looked hopeful. Daniel didn't know what dangers lay ahead. He didn't know what her people wanted, or how far they would go to get her back. But as he took her hand again and pulled her to her feet, he knew one thing. Their connection was growing, stronger with every step, and it was a connection that could change everything. The forest stretched endlessly before them, full of shadows and secrets. The hunt was far from over, but in that quiet moment, with the alien girl walking beside him, Daniel felt a spark of something he had never felt before, something that might one day save them both, or break them completely. The morning sun painted the forest gold, but Daniel felt no warmth. His clothes were damp with dew, his body heavy from exhaustion, yet he kept walking, guiding Lyra through the endless trees. Every step echoed with the same thought. They were still being hunted. Lyra's glow was weaker now, fading in daylight. She walked slowly, sometimes leaning against him when her strength failed. But her eyes, those strange, star-like eyes, remained sharp, alert. She was hiding something. Daniel could feel it, every time he asked why they wanted her. She looked away, silent. Finally, after hours of silence, they reached a ridge that overlooked the valley. From there, Daniel could see the town in the distance, police cars, flashing lights, smoke rising near the crash site. The world below was waking to a mystery it could not explain. But up here, the truth stood beside him, pale and trembling. Daniel sat on a fallen log, pulling in a shaky breath. He looked at her firmly. "Lyra, I need to know. Why are they after you?" "What? Are you not telling me?" For a long time she didn't answer, her hands twisted together, her glowing eyes darting to the ground. Then slowly, painfully, she spoke. "Mission. Observe humans." "Nothing more." Daniel frowned. "Observe? You mean spy?" She flinched at the word, but didn't deny it. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My people. Do not trust your kind. They think humans are violent, selfish. I was sent to watch, to prove them right." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to be angry, but the fear in her voice stopped him. "And did you prove them right?" he asked, his voice sharp, her eyes lifted to his, glowing faintly even in daylight. "No. I found you." The words struck deeper than he expected. He stared at her, confusion and disbelief in his chest. "You mean me? Just me?" Lyra nodded slowly. "You help without reason, protect without order. You are different." Daniel swallowed hard, trying to process it. "So your people don't just want you back, do they? They don't want the truth you found." Her silence was the answer. The wind picked up, carrying the faint hum of engines in the sky. Lyra's body tensed, her eyes wide with dread. "My people come, if they find me with you. They erase you." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Erase me? What does that mean?" Her gaze darkened. "Memory, life, everything. They will not allow this." "Bond." The word hung heavy between them. Bond. Daniel looked at her, at the way her hand trembled when she tried to reach for his, at the way her eyes softened when she said his name. He felt it too, though he couldn't explain it. Something was pulling them closer, something bigger than fear. "But you don't want to go back, do you?" he asked quietly. Her silence stretched on, until finally she shook her head. "I want to believe. Your kind can be more, but If I stay, both our worlds may burn. Daniel's jaw tightened. So what then? You just leave me? Pretend this never happened? His words were sharper than he meant, but he couldn't stop them. He hated the thought of losing her. Even though he had only just found her, her glowing eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Sadness, not fear, not pain, but deep, heavy sadness. I don't want to leave, she whispered. Her hand brushed his cheek, trembling, cold. But choice is not mine alone. They come, and when they do, I must choose my duty, or you. The air between them grew heavier. Daniel wanted to say something, anything, but his throat felt tight. All he could do was stare at her, at the girl who was not human, yet felt more human than anyone he had ever known. Then the ground trembled. A low hum shook the valley, the trees around them quivering. Daniel snapped his head up. Dark shapes were moving in the sky. Larger this time, silent and smooth. Ships, not human, not from Earth. They had found her. Lyra's glow flickered wildly, panic filling her eyes. They come for me, she whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel stood, his fists clenched, his chest burning with defiance. Then let them come, if they want you. They'll have to go through me first. She looked at him in shock, as if his words were impossible. But in his eyes she saw no fear, only determination. For the first time, Lyra realized something her people had never believed. Humans could be more than violent, more than selfish. They could be brave, even in the face of the unknown. And in that moment, as the ships descended, the truth was clear to both of them. Their worlds were colliding, and nothing would ever be the same again. The sky roared with a sound that did not belong to Earth. Daniel's head tilted upward, his heart hammering as the alien ships cut across the clouds like shadows of steel. The air itself seemed to shake, the trees bending under their silent weight. Beside him, Lyra's glowing eyes widened, her body trembling as if her very blood recognized the presence above. They found me, she whispered, her voice breaking. Her pale hands clutched the fabric of his sleeve, weak yet desperate. Daniel swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had no plan, no weapons, nothing except the one thing he refused to surrender her. The first beam of red light sliced through the forest. It wasn't fire, but something worse. Where the beam touched, the trees disintegrated into ash. The ground splitting with a hiss, Daniel grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her down behind a fallen log as the air burned above their heads. His voice was sharp, urgent. Move! Now! They sprinted through the woods, branches whipping their faces, roots threatening to drag them down. Lyra's legs faltered, her body still weak from the crash, but she forced herself forward, driven not by strength, but by sheer fear. Daniel's grip on her hand was unrelenting, pulling her whenever she stumbled. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Figures stepped out from the beam. Soldiers, tall and strange, armored in dark metal that shimmered like liquid. Their helmets hid their faces, their weapons pulsed with red light. Lyra! One of them called in a voice that wasn't human, deep and mechanical. Daniel's blood ran cold. They weren't just after her, they knew her name. The forest became a battlefield. Red beams cut through trees, smoke rising in spirals as the woods burned. Daniel and Lyra ducked, rolled, ran, every step a gamble. His lungs burned. His muscles screamed, but stopping was death. Daniel. Lyra gasped, her voice barely a whisper. She stumbled again, and this time he caught her before she fell. Her glowing eyes locked onto his, desperate. You must leave me. He shook his head violently. No, don't say that. I'm not leaving you. You'll die, she pleaded, her words heavy with pain. But Daniel only tightened his grip, his voice firm. Then we die together, because I'm not letting them take you. Something in his words made her pause. Her eyes shimmered, not just with fear, but with something else, something fragile and human. The chase dragged them deeper into the forest until they burst into a clearing. But there was no safety waiting. Hovering above the open ground was a smaller craft, sleek and silver, its engine humming like a predator ready to strike. The soldiers moved in, encircling the clearing. Weapons raised, Daniel stood in front of Lyra, his chest heaving, his fists clenched. He had no weapon, no chance, but he refused to move. The leader stepped forward, armor gleaming under the strange red light. His voice was cold, sharp. "Return, Lyra. Your mission is over. This human will be erased." Daniel's heart pounded, but he held his ground. "I won't let you touch her," he shouted. The soldiers raised their weapons, beams crackling with power. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, brighter than ever before. "No!" she screamed, her voice like a wave of energy. In an instant, light exploded from her body. The soldiers staggered back, shields flaring. Daniel shielded his eyes as the blast tore through the clearing. The ground shook, trees bent. The small craft above wavered as if struck by a storm. When the light faded, Lyra collapsed to her knees, her glow dimming. Her powers had saved them, but drained what little strength she had left. Daniel dropped beside her, holding her shoulders, panic in his voice. "Lyra, stay with me." She looked up at him, her glowing eyes weak but steady, her lips parted, her voice soft. "They won't stop, they'll chase us." "Until I choose." Daniel's chest tightened. "Choose what?" Her voice broke, the word heavy as stone. "Choose. You. Or them." The silence that followed was louder than the ships above. Daniel felt his heart crack under the weight of her words. This wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a war of choices, love or duty, humanity or her people, and whatever decision she made, someone's heart would break. But as the soldiers regrouped in the distance, their weapons glowing again, Daniel pulled her close, his voice fierce. "Then choose me, because I'm not letting you go without a fight." Her eyes shimmered with pain and longing. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to stay. But the shadow of her people loomed above them, and deep inside, she knew the hardest choice was still to come. The chase was not over. It had only begun. The clearing was silent after the blast. Smoke rose from shattered trees, sparks hissed. From broken weapons, the alien soldiers staggered back into the shadows, regrouping, waiting for orders. But Daniel only saw her. Lyra collapsed against him, her glow fading like the last light of a dying star. Her breathing was shallow, every inhale sharp with pain. He pressed his hand against her shoulder, whispering, "Stay with me, please. Don't close your eyes." She blinked slowly, her glowing eyes dim but locked onto his. "I still here," she whispered, though her voice trembled like glass. Above them, the larger ships circled, engines humming like thunder in the sky. They weren't done. This was only the beginning. Daniel looked up, his chest heavy with dread. How could he fight them? He was just one man with nothing but his fists and his will. Lyra's hand gripped his wrist weakly. Her touch was cold, her voice weak. "Daniel, listen, if they take me, you must forget me, forget this." "Night." The words stabbed him deeper than any weapon could. He shook his head, fierce and desperate. "No, don't say that. I can't forget you. I won't." Her glowing eyes softened, full of sorrow. "My people will not allow this bond. They will erase it. It is mercy and punishment." Daniel's throat burned, anger and grief twisting inside him. "Then fight them. Stay with me. We can run, hide something." She shook her head slowly, painfully. "They will never stop, and if I stay, they will destroy you, your world too, because of me." Her words fell heavy in the night air. Daniel felt his heart breaking, even as he held her closer. "You're not a curse, Lyra. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." For the first time, her lips curved into something almost like a smile, a fragile, broken smile. "And you are the first human who showed me kindness." A rumble shook the ground. One of the ships was descending. Its lights split the trees, its engines burning the air. The soldiers regrouped, their weapons glowing again. They were coming for her, and there was nothing he could do. Lyra sat up slowly, her glow returning faintly. Her voice was firmer now, though it broke his heart to hear it. "I must go," she said. Daniel grabbed her arm, his voice raw. "No, don't leave me. Please." She placed her cold hand on his cheek, silencing him. Her eyes glowed brighter, shimmering like stars caught in tears. "If I stay, you die. If I go, you live. This is my choice, Daniel, not yours." He shook his head violently, his chest breaking open with grief. "No. You can't just leave. Not after everything. Not after." Her lips pressed against his cheek, light and fleeting. The first and last kiss she could give. A goodbye written in silence. When she pulled back, her voice was softer, almost gone. "Do not forget me in your heart, even if they take the memory from your mind. Promise me that." Tears burned his eyes, his voice breaking as he whispered, "I promise." The soldiers advanced, their leader raising a hand. The ship above roared, a beam of white light splitting the clearing. Lyra stepped into it, her body glowing brighter, stronger. For the first time, she didn't look afraid. She looked like someone who had found something worth losing everything for. Daniel reached out, his hand shaking. "Lyra!" he cried, but she only smiled, her voice carrying over the roar of the ship. "Your love broke my heart, but it also saved it." And then she was gone. The light swallowed her. The ship rose. The forest fell silent. Only Daniel remained, kneeling in the ashes, his heart shattered. He stared at the empty sky, his fists clenched. He didn't know if they would erase his memory. He didn't know if he would ever see her again. But he knew one truth, carved deep into his soul. She was real, and he loved her, even if she was gone.
The forest was silent again. No more red beams, no more humming ships. Only smoke curling into the pale sky and the faint rustle of wind through broken trees. Daniel knelt in the clearing where she had vanished. His chest rose and fell in uneven gasps, his hands shaking as if the air itself had betrayed him. She was gone. The beam of light had taken her. The ship had vanished into the clouds. And with it, the fragile hope he had clung to. His body felt heavy, every bone aching. But the true weight was in his heart. The image of her, Lyra, standing in that beam of light, smiling at him even as she said goodbye. It burned inside him like fire. Her last words repeated in his mind. "Your love broke my heart, but it also saved it." He pressed his palms against the earth, the ashes of trees still warm under his skin. For the first time in years, tears slid down his face, silent and raw. She had been here, real and alive. And now she was gone, stolen back by the stars. Days passed in a blur. Authorities swarmed the town, calling the crash a meteor strike. Reporters came, scientists argued, but no one spoke of the ships, the soldiers, the girl. Daniel said nothing. How could he? Who would believe him? At night, he sat by his window, staring at the sky. He tried to sleep, but dreams brought her back. Her glowing eyes, her trembling voice, her cold hand against his cheek. And always the memory of her stepping into that beam of light, choosing to leave him behind. Sometimes he wondered if they had erased something inside him. If pieces of memory were already slipping away. There were moments when he struggled to recall the sound of her voice or the exact shade of her glow. But his heart remembered, and that was something they could not take. Weeks later, Daniel returned to the forest. The crash site was gone, cleaned by the authorities. The trees were blackened stumps, the clearing empty. But when he stood there, he swore he could still feel her presence, faint and lingering, like a whisper carried on the wind. He sat on the same fallen log where she had told him the truth. And for the first time since she left, he spoke aloud, his voice soft, trembling. "I don't know if you can hear me, Lyra, but I kept my promise. I haven't forgotten you. Not here." He pressed a fist to his chest, where her cold hand had once rested. The stars above blinked faintly, distant and unreachable. And yet, as he watched them, one star flickered brighter, only for a moment, but enough to make him freeze. His heart leapt, his breath caught. Was it just a star? Or something else? A smile ghosted across his face, fragile but real. Maybe she was gone forever. Maybe she would never return. But maybe, just maybe, her story with him wasn't finished. Daniel rose, his eyes still on that single flickering light. His heart was broken, but within that brokenness lived a spark of hope, because he knew one truth, unshakable and eternal. She was an alien, but his love had reached her, and even across the stars, some bonds could never be erased.